Just a minute. We'll begin in just a minute. We're waiting for a few folks to join. Welcome to today's webinar, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Her Thoughts on Leggings. We're pleased you could join us today. A few things as we get started. First of all, as you may have heard, this webinar is being recorded. So the recorded webinar will be available via a link following today's presentation. In the middle of the bottom of your screen is a box for questions and questions. We'll have time for a Q&A period today. So if you have a question at any time during the webinar, please enter your question. You're welcome to include your name. So if we don't get to your particular question today, you'll be able to get a follow-up from the Lycra team. Your name and your questions will not be visible to others. Let me introduce you to today's hosts. I'm Michelle Schlegel, Senior Strategic Account Manager at Lycra. Joining me today are my colleagues, Jeff Hippis, Global Technology Director, and Ting He, End-Use Researcher. So let's get into today's subject. Leggings continue to be a key growth category within activewear. And we conducted some market research earlier this year to understand from women what they liked and didn't like about their leggings. We also researched many product sites to find out what she's saying today in online reviews about the leggings she owns or that she's tried on. Today, we're going to take you inside our lab. That's the fun part. So we're going to take you inside the Lycra lab just to find out from the insights we've gathered from our research how the science works. And we'll share our newest Lycra fiber innovation, Lycra Adaptive. So the survey, we conducted a survey during March of this year. We surveyed 450 women across 3 countries via an online survey. They had 30 questions all about leggings that ranged from, does it fit well? Are they versatile? Are they easy to get on and take off? All the way to, are they stylish and fashionable? And let's see what they had to say. We learned a few things. Some were new insights. Some kind of confirm what we thought might be the case, but she spoke to us loud and clear in her survey results. Fit is the most important attribute. The top scores you see here all rated in the high 90s. She wants a garment that stays in place first and foremost. She doesn't want to have to make constant adjustments to her leggings. Comfortable fit. She wants a legging that moves with her. When she's on the move, she wants it to be comfortable and stay comfortable. And fits well. She wants a legging that fits her and her body shape. And we learned nothing is more important than the waistband. Several of the waistband attributes that we asked about during the survey rated in the 90s as far as what's most important to her. They included things like doesn't fall down, a waistband that doesn't roll over, a waistband that's not too tight. All of those attributes rated in the 90s as far as what's most important to her when she's wearing her leggings. And those of us that wear leggings, or if you work in this space, we all know the issues around waistband, and her input on the survey confirmed it. So let's see what she had to say online. Does it line up with those comments?
The waistband was so tight I couldn't breathe and they still wouldn't stay put. I need leggings that move with me.
So we've heard what she's had to say about leggings through an online survey. We'll share more about the product reviews, but right now we're going to share our newest Lycra innovation. That's a great solution for leggings. So before we head into the Lycra lab, Jeff Hippis is going to introduce our newest Lycra fiber.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. So today I want to talk a little bit about Lycra Adaptive Fiber. And so Lycra Adaptive Fiber is our new brand identity for a new innovative elastane fiber. So patent pending elastane fiber. It's called 962L, kind of at the trade level. And what you see is 3 key benefit statements on the bottom. And those actually say quite a bit. Stay in place, dynamic comfort, and fit forgiveness. And specifically, stay in place, that speaks to compression, that speaks to shape retention, whereas dynamic comfort speaks to freedom of movement. And then fit forgiveness kind of combines the two and speaks to things like one size fits more, or better yet, one size fits you, in all the things that you're going to do throughout the day when you're wearing leggings. And by the way, I'll just mention in passing that certainly today's focus is leggings, but that same benefit story is really relevant to any close to the body or body hugging type garment. So sports bras, hosiery, compression tops, etc. So if we move on to the next page, what you'll see is kind of an overall summary of the benefits that we see with Lycra Adaptive Fiber. And again, we spent a lot of time in our lab thinking about stretch and recovery. That's what we do. That's our Lycra brand essence. And what we really found is what we felt was missing was what we call hybrid performance, and that is a technology that has 2 things combined together. And in one case, it would be high modulus, and in the other case, low modulus. And so what we are so excited about around Lycra Adaptive Fiber is it really does do both of those. And so when you have a product that delivers a high modulus, that gives you things like you see there: equal holding force at rest, shaping and compression, stays in place. And then when you think about the second piece of that, the lower modulus, those are the parts that really matter when you're moving. And so that has to do with donning and doffing, fit without a fight, moves with you. It also allows second skin fit and second skin, freedom of motion. The real, magic here is getting those kind of softer stretch benefits without sacrificing the high power benefits of compression and stay in place. So I thought probably it would make sense if we move on to the next page to give a little bit of a technical discussion on that. And this is the kind of the one key technical chart here that I wanted to talk about regarding Lycra Adaptive Fiber. And so let me speak to this briefly, because this is really kind of the substantiation behind it, or how it really works from a technical perspective. What you see is a graph, and it's a modulus curve. It's a stress strain graph. And what it shows you is power, or grams of force, on the y-axis and stretch on the x-axis. And so instead of telling you, the modulus is 10 at a certain percent stretch, I'm showing you in the orange curve and in the blue curve, the modulus at every single stretch point from 0 to 50%. And looking at, say, the orange curve, the upper orange curve is stretching and the lower orange curve is coming back. So we've stretched from 0 to 50 and back again. And what you see there, if you look, for example, at the section highlighted or shaded in yellow, is that's in the lower stretch portion of the fabric. And by the way, this is not an idealized or a graphical curve, or it's not what we hope to happen. This is really a couple of real world fabric examples that were apples to apples. And anyways, what it's showing there is the blue curves are higher than the orange. And by having that high power at low stretch, so from 0 to 20%, that's where you get your looks new longer. That's where the shaping comes from. That's where the fit and the silhouette on the body, the second skin appearance and silhouette comes from, as well as staying in place during movement. So what we did is we developed a high power spandex, or a high stretch or high modulus spandex, but it's only high modulus in that range. What we then wanted it to do, and what we've been able to deliver, is it sort of magically turns into a softer stretch or a lower modulus when you stretch it more. And when do you stretch it more? You stretch it more when you're donning and doffing. As we think about leggings, they don't have zippers and buttons, and you don't wear a belt. It's really about stretching it to get it onto your body and pulling it up and getting it to stay in place. So when you have, say, more than 20% stretch on the fabric, when you're doing a sporting activity or donning and doffing, that's where you want a softer modulus. And what you see then now is the orange graph is higher than the blue. By that I mean the power is higher, so it's stiffer, it's more restrictive. The blue one is flatter. The ride, of course, it goes up in force as you stretch it more, but it doesn't go up as fast. And what that means is, it's easier to put on. You're going to stretch it really far to get that sports bra over your head or to get those leggings on, and it doesn't take as much force to do that. The good news is it comes right back and stays on your body. And that's also what happens when you're running and jumping. Your knees, you may bend the fabric, say 40, 50%. You want that modulus to be lower. What you don't want is when you stop moving, it to be bagging and sagging or gaping at the knees. And what you see here, because of the yellow part, it comes right back. So that's really the why we are excited about this product, is it has, shall we say, high modulus and low modulus in the same fiber. And it has the high part where it's needed, and it has the low part where it's needed. So again, that gives us a real degree of excitement around this product. And so let's first focus on kind of the second skin piece. If you move on to the next page, what you see here is a initial wear trial, and this is just simply a second skin fit wear trial of a couple of apples to apples leggings. And of course, one is made out of a standard elastane product, number 2 and number 4. And what you see with number 1 and number 3 are the same garment on the same lady with the Lycra adaptive fiber. And the yellow line in number 1 is basically equal to the length of the waistband. And if you can look closely in number 2, you'll see that the yellow line is the same length, but that the waistband is not still covering the full length of the yellow line. And what that means is that waistband is a little more bunched because of the modulus, because of the lack of balanced stretch. It didn't go up as high. And what that does is that, concentrates that force in a smaller area. So, it's maybe 10 centimeters instead of 15 centimeters. And so what you see there is, tighter pinching, more propensity to not stay in place. And we'll get into that in a couple of slides. But clearly, the waistband is distributed, as Michelle mentioned earlier, is critically important. And when you can distribute that same force, but over a wider area, you've got a better fit experience. At least that's our position or experience on that matter. If you look over in pictures 3 and 4, same garments, just the red line is, computer added. The person turns and looks, and we look in the profile, and what you see there is really the benefit of what second skin really can do. When you have a balanced stretch fabric and you have that lower modulus in certain areas where the garment is stretched more than 20%, it accommodates to your body better versus kind of forcing your tissue to go where it may not want to. And so what you see there with number 3 is the red line is parallel to the sewing line where the waistband and the fabric of the garment begin. And so, that it's slightly sloped. I hope all can see that. And, that's really the way the human body is made. That's kind of the way your torso works. If you look on the right side in number 4, you see it's kind of more bucket shaped or perfectly parallel to the floor. And so, that's not really body hugging. It's on her body and it's staying up, especially because the waistband is pinching more, but it's not conforming as well. And so, what we found is, from an initial fit perspective, what you see here is being able to use that dynamic modulus to really give you a good second skin fit and appearance. So with that, let me move on to the next slide and turn it back over to Michelle, and we're going to talk about what happens when she starts to move in those garments.
Thanks, Jeff. As we get back into the survey results, we had shared earlier that stays in place ranks among one of the most important attributes. And for stays in place, we also know and shared that waistband is really important. All women, myself included, we all know that one pair that we have, or a couple pairs that we have, the nagging waistband where we always are tugging it up, trying to pull up that legging. And let's see now what women had to say about actual products online.
They roll down like cheap pantyhose, and if you bend over, I hope you have on fancy panties.
They don't stay in place. I'm constantly pulling them up, whether I'm just walking or exercising.
And now we're going to move to the Lycra Lab. For the first time in our webinar series, we're bringing you up close and personal into our Lycra lab to share what's going on, why she has these complaints, and what's the science behind leggings. So Ting, can you share with everybody?
Sure. We want to know how the garments stay during different activities. Our body is very flexible. The skin can stretch and the muscle can expand. We need a garment to adapt our body. On the left is a fit model squatting to mimic gym activities. Have a close look what is happening in the legging. First, the thigh expands. It needs a fabric to stretch across the body to give more room. A good elongation in the fabric gives you more great capability to move around without feeling being restricted. Recalling the strength curve Jeff just introduced, the flatter curve indicates that a fabric is easier to stretch out, easier to adapt the body movement. Second, the body not only stretch across the body, but the body length also stretch. So the fabric doesn't have poor direction elongation will cause trouble. It is common that the fabric shrink from the waistband to compensate the cross-body stretch. In this case, the waistband is pulled down or the ankle is pulled up. So the ideal fabric needs to be four-way stretch, just like your skin. Third, not only the stretch, you also want the fabric to come back. The fabric needs to have the minimum set and the elastic needs to be sufficient to mold you whenever you relax. Fabric needs to be engineered with the right power, not too loose to sag, not too tight to pull down. So recalling the strength curve again, the higher power on the lower elongation part makes the garment stay better. Next, let's have a close look of how we test legging stay in place in our lab. If we move on to next page, we ask a model to wear a normal legging with generic spandex. So this is apple-to-apple study. Both leggings are made in same style, same manufacturer, and cutting the same layout. The only difference is generic spandex and the Lycra adaptive fiber legging. We start with generic one and mark with a solid line without any movement. And we ask the fit model to move around to mimic very different levels of activities like doing some squats or do burpees. After the exercise, we mark the waistband position again with a dash line. Then we repeat the whole process with a legging that has a Lycra adaptive fiber and marked again with dash line. On the right picture, you can tell the distance between the solid line and the dash line. We call it displacement of legging. It's very different between the two leggings. The Lycra adaptive fiber legging always have a smaller displacement. And this benefit is not only seen on one pair comparison. We do this study including many different styles and different activity levels. In summary, the improvement of stay in place by Lycra adaptive fiber legging ranges from 73% to 85%. That's how we quantify the stay. Let's move on to the next fact. Hi, Michelle.
So she rated comfortable fit as 98% as far as what's the most important attribute. She wants it to fit comfortable and stay comfortable. We define this as comfort in motion. She wants it to be comfortable all day, no matter what activities she's doing. And so let's look at what she had to say online at products she's buying today.
They look great until I move, then they start that slow creep down until they pull at my knees.
I have a small waist and big thighs. If they fit in one place, they sag in another. If they're snug in the waist, they crawl up my bum. What's going on?
Just as she said, let's go back to the lab again to find out what's going on. Why are they moving?
We just talked about elongation and stay, and we are now talking about the fabric power and comfort. So what is happening when legging isn't comfortable? First, it may lose over time. So some garments use less powerful elasting. However, elasting, or sometimes spandex, it is an engine to hold the fabric in place and mold the body. Insufficient elastin is like driving a mini car to drag a house. So the garment will lose over time after wearing and after washing. Some garment maker may try to be generous to make the pattern a little bigger, a little more room for people to move in. However, the legging needs to mold to the skin. The overcut of fabric won't solve the problem of a wrong power in the fabric. So find the fabric with the right level of power is a key. Second, the legging could be very restrictive. Many fabric using standard elastin to give support, although it may give the similar elongation, but the body spends more energy to stretch it. For casual application, it may be too much power and it feels very restrictive. A softer stretch fabric will make the legging stretch effortless. Third, some legging just feel like it's fighting with you when you move around. You put it on, feels okay, but when you move around, you cannot easily sit because the waistband may squeeze you. You may be afraid of bend down because you worry about the drop at the back. So those, it's just because the garment is only engineered when it's static or put on a model and look at good. It's not think thoroughly about how to make it comfort in the motion. We have example in the lab, and let's have a look how we study the comfort in motion. So next slide, we are showing a chart of apple-to-apple study of two leggings. The white line is a control standard elastic fiber legging. The red line is a Lycra adaptive fiber legging. So we place the wear force sensor under the legging. So all the force is tracked during the static stage until the dynamic stage when the fit model moving around. And we ask the model to do 3 squat, split squat, as you saw in the last part, the right light gray part. The two curves showing the compression change from static to the dynamic. We have started from the static pressure, which is the dark gray part. If you look at close, the first part, they're kind of steady and flat wear force. That means both leggings are staying really good and not falling down and securely sitting there. But the red line has a lower force. That means Lycra adaptive legging is more comfortable just to put it on. Second, when you move on to the right part, the light gray background dynamic pressure, that is when the model start moving around and you can see the compression increase when she bent down and do the split squat. Always the red line have comparatively lower compression. That means it's more comfortable to moving. And when you look at the third part, the body moves back to relaxed position and those valley shows up. That means the relaxed, the fabric coming back and trying to hold you back. The red valley is always smaller and shallow. That means the legging comes back with support and the less possible to sag or fall down. So in conclusion, during the standing or just dynamic movement, the adaptive fiber leggings always have a good solution to make it comfortable with you, no matter which stage are you. Right, let's move on to the next fact.
We know consumers want versatility in their garments, especially now as we're all getting back out there. She wants dynamic comfort that lasts regardless of what she's doing, whether she's out for a walk, off to a yoga class, or picking up her groceries. Comfort that lasts all day. The third top attribute was fits well. She wants leggings to fit as if they were made just for her. People are more than a size, they're a shape as well. So providing some fit flexibility is beneficial. Let's hear what she has to say.
Purchased my normal size, and they were so tight I couldn't sit or even breathe.
Sizing is so inconsistent, it's hard to order online. A small in one brand is too big, and a medium in another is way too tight.
Okay, so, another thing to think about is if we are going to truly, try to deliver on stay in place and dynamic comfort and fit forgiveness, one of the first things, it behooves us to do is to recognize that, shape is, or fit is more than a size, and, people come in many different shapes. And as we think about leggings in particular, we sort of want to look at sort of the bottom half of these curves here. But as it relates to the broader close to the body garment in the athleisure space, there's shoulders, there's the chest area, the waist, and then thighs. And so what we need to do here is kind of demonstrate that we can really, versus say the graphs and the technical performance, we really want to put it to the test. And so if you move to the next page, what I want to do is introduce a video that we're going to play in a second on the next slide. And that video shows two different ladies wearing the very same garment. And what you'll see is they're both going to have a very good wearing experience, but it really kind of combines and pulls together what we've been discussing. And that is really that fit forgiveness. We want it to be able to accommodate one size fitting more. So two ladies of different shapes, but we also want it to fit you, so that one person, each of them as an individual, we want them to have a good, positive wearing experience. And so let me go ahead and cue up this video, because I think this will hopefully be very on point here with relate to the Lycra Adaptive brand promise. Great. Well, look, if we move on to the next slide, I think I'll turn it back over to Ting, because I'd like her to talk a little bit technically around, kind of how we can measure what you actually just saw, meaning we can actually use our pressure sensor technology and use our garment engineering technology to really quantify and qualify and, put some substantiation behind what you just saw. So Ting, why don't you take it from here?
Sure. So we just hear the different size women's feedback. This is studied in a broader condition. The left model usually wears size small, and she has a clear waistline, and she calls herself a pear shape. The right model usually wears large size, and she has apple body shape with much bigger waistline. So when they both wear the same garment in medium size, here's how the compression look like. So the gray line is the control fiber legging. It starts at study stage from 0.2 pound per square inch. And the feedback from the both model is very similar. And you can tell the compression level when it starts, it's very similar for both models. Means the control legging is already good garment to start with. It gives a very similar fit for two different sizes. Here we are making a good garment to be a great one. So look at the highest peak in dynamic motion, which is 3 peaks on the way. If you look at the highest of the white line, the gray line, the small size model is jumping from 0.2 when it starts to the 0.6 on the highest peak, which means the small size model experienced 3 times compression when she moved around. If you look at the right, the large size woman, when she moves around in the same legging, she experienced 1.4 force, which is 7 times when she starts, right? Very different. And if you compare what's the difference between the largest compression during the movement of the two sizes, the large size woman experienced almost twice of the compression than the smaller size woman. So that's very different when they just move around. So how about our Lycra adaptive fiber? So you can see the black line is always reduce the compression in half. And this is not happen on one size. It's given a broader range of sizes and shapes, a more forgiving fitting. Okay, here is all the 3 tech facts we can help to make your legging better. I'm handing over to Michelle.
Great. Thanks, Ting. Well, today we've been to hear what she's had to say about her leggings, what she's reporting online, and we've been in the Lycra lab to understand the science behind. We've looked at comparison leggings, apple to apple comparison, where the only difference is between this generic spandex and the new Lycra adaptive fiber. And we're very pleased that our brand new Lycra adaptive fiber really is a great solution for stays in place, dynamic comfort, and fit forgiveness, all important to her and her leggings. Before we head into Q&A, we see that a number of people have asked questions, but before we head into Q&A, we have a pop-up box that'll appear. So if you'd like to learn more about what we've covered today, you can click on the pop-up box and let us know. And as you're doing that, we're going to check out the Q&A. Okay, so we have some questions that have come in during today's webinar. And so Ting, myself, and Jeff will try to field some of your questions over the next few minutes. First of all, there's a question around patents. Are there any patents on this technology? Jeff, do you want to?
Yes, I can take that. So this is a patent pending technology. So patents applied for globally, but probably that gives me a good opportunity to kind of talk about the fact that, this is a unique elastane chemistry. So it is truly different from a fiber perspective. In other words, this is not a different, denier or a different, set of spinning conditions. It's truly a novel chemistry. And that's how we got at that unique hybrid performance that I was talking about before.
Thanks, Jeff. There's a question here. Can Lycra adaptive fiber be used on both warp and circular knit fabrics? Ting, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. Just as Jeff mentioned in part of introduction, we use this fiber in majority applications, not only for leggings, but for all holding close to body garments like bras, and also for different fabrication technologies, that warp knits, weft knits, seamless. It happened to be I have like 2 garments here using seamless technology, like our adaptive fiber for bras and leggings. So yes, it can be using for different fabrication as well as different garment types.
Great, thanks, Ting. Looks like we have some knowledgeable folks on our product range. Somebody's asking a question, and Jeff, I'll give this to you. Is it different than Lycra 902C, or how is it different than Lycra 902C?
Yeah, good question. A lot of what I've been talking about is consistent with the positioning and performance of Lycra 902C. And we use that as the starting point for this technology. Hopefully this won't be too detailed of an answer, but the upshot of it is 902C does a lot of what I was talking about really well when the denier or detex of that product is more than 100. So it works extremely well in high Lycra content, compression wear, hosiery waistbands, sock tops. It really worked extremely well and very consistent with what I was discussing on this in this webinar, only in those higher deniers. We tried, to be honest, we tried to make it in finer denier, 20 denier, 40 denier, 60, and the benefit's kind of there, but not quite enough, because some of that low power that I described, high power at low modulus or low stretch that I was talking about wasn't there. So it kind of, despite that it does amazing and wonderful things in high denier, it was kind of just soft when it came to 40 denier, 30 denier, etc. And what we really want is that hybrid benefit where you still get the compression and the holding force and the shaping, but we also want the softer stretch in motion. And so we had to tweak the formulation to get there. 902C on its own couldn't quite do that in fine denier. It can in high denier, but not in fine. So that's the answer.
Great, thanks. There's a question here about swimwear. It said, is there a Lycra adaptive fiber suitable for swimwear?
Yes, it's suitable for leisure swimwear. If you were interested in using it for, true competitive training suits, please come talk to us and we can talk about how we could potentially make that happen. The existing product that we are out in the market with today has chlorine resistance. It's more than acceptable for home laundering and sock tops and leisure swimwear that will see some chlorine. But if you're really looking for a premium performance for a competitive suit, we have ways to do that, but that's not our current thrust out in the market at the moment. But it is within our technical capability.
Great, thanks. We have a couple more questions. I think we have time for a few more that are coming in. Here's one that said, my customer expects a compressive body hugging legging. Is this going to compromise, is 962L going to compromise that expectation?
No, the quick answer is no. We've seen some very high compressive forces with 962L and our Lycra adaptive fiber. And if we're not getting where we need to be, we can certainly work with the fabric mill around either adjustment in denier of the product or adjustment in construction. However, apples to apples, the compressive force is the same as standard Lycra fiber. The only time it's not is when you're moving.
Okay. And just I guess a follow-up on one of the earlier questions is I'm working with Lycra MyFit. Is Lycra adaptive the same? And I can feel that. Yes, it is the same. If you've been working with Lycra MyFit, which is known as type 962L, Lycra adaptive is our brand new positioning. And really, we did the new branding and positioning because it more effectively encompasses the full benefits of the new fiber. So Lycra adaptive is the new branding for what was formerly known as Lycra MyFit. I guess there's a question about what deniers it's available in. So Jeff, can you make a comment on the range, the denier range, the new fibers available in?
Yeah, we are making it within, the usual kind of range for flat fabric, so circular knit, warp knit. So we have a 20 denier, 30, 40, 60, 70. I'm sorry, 55 and 70, and also 105. And then we have a few that are higher than that we are looking at applications like narrows and waistbands. So I won't go into those, but if you would like to talk about specifics on the higher denier piece, be happy to follow up.
And as we would expect, there's a question around sustainability here. Is there any recycled content in the adaptive fiber or any sustainable features in making the new fiber?
There is no recycled content in the product today. Technically, that could be possible. This is a new product, a new launch for us. And so we don't have sufficient quantity in the market that we'd be taking it back to from a recycle perspective. But from a sustainability perspective, it's really, the concept of, buy less, wear longer. We want this to be your favorite garment. And if it's your favorite garment, you will wear it as long as you can, or at least that's our hope. And so, especially if you like how you look in it, which we hope you will, the intent is that, the quality over quantity. And again, buy less, wear longer. We think this is really a great solution for making close to the body garments your favorite garment.
And there's a question here around availability. Is it available? When can we begin sourcing it? The fiber is available. It should be available at all the known and mainstream mills. You can contact your Lycra representative to get you connected for some samples, fabric samples that you need. So fully available across regions and at most, if not all, mills. Let me just scan, see if there's any other key questions here. There's one here, perceptive. perceptive person. Does this mean the existing, quote, regular Lycra fiber might be phased out over time in favor of the new Lycra adaptive fiber?
Yeah, we've debated that internally. If we had come up with this, before we launched some of our current, kind of more core product items, would this be our new standard? And the answer is probably. Is it intended to replace some of our core products? No, at the moment it's intended to be additive to, but as this grows and hopefully gains adoption in the market, it's very possible that it could become kind of one of our core polymer platforms going forward. In fact, that's our hope. That's my hope anyways. Yes.
Great. And one final question I think for today is, how does it perform on low content garments?
Yeah, so very good question. Our initial work, we looked at some circular knits with modal and with cotton, and the benefit is, to hand stretch. If you kind of sew the fabric into a loop and kind of stretch it and compare it apples to apples with another, we found, say, 9, 10, 11% was pretty obvious. In other words, if you give it to just about any person and say, which one of these can you feel the difference? They go, oh yeah, I can. If you got down to, say, 5 or 6, it's borderline, but it's clearly there. But it depends on what type of construction you're using, how tight the fabric is, how much total elongation the garment might have or the fabric might have. So, I mean, the quick answer I'd say is 10 plus or minus 1. However, we've been doing some scouting work in areas like denim, which of course the content in denim is much lower. It's less than 5. And so we've seen the benefit there in super stretch denim. And so, there are applications where you can see the benefit below that. But if you're talking, core knitwear, the topic of, this webinar on athleisure or on leggings, 10 is probably a good minimum.
Great. Well, thank you. I think that's about all the time we had for questions today. If there are a few questions we didn't get to and you've left your name, we will be sure to follow up with you. But would like to say thank you for joining us today. We appreciated sharing the insights from our research, both the survey work that we did, plus what we've researched online for the products, and taking you inside our Lycra lab. That's the first time we've tried to take you inside for how the science works. We appreciate your time today. Up on the screen is the contact information for today's host. So if you want to have any other questions, you're welcome to follow up with us specifically or your local Lycra representative. So thanks for joining us today. Bye-bye.
Bye.